Hello, everyone. This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. Back again today, Tuesday, what are we, February the 19th, to do another live Express Entry question and answer session with yours truly. I am looking forward to another episode. This one is going to be a little bit shorter because I have a ton of work that is piling up, and so we're going to have to keep it a little bit short. I've got my live questions that I'm going to be answering for those who are tuning in live, as well as all of these email questions that have been sent in by listeners. This weekend was a wonderful weekend. Yesterday, Monday, was Family Day here in Canada, and one interesting anecdote that some of you who are looking to immigrate to Canada might find interesting is that generally for most months out of the year, there's at least one Monday that's designated as a holiday. So we have these long weekends. And so we had the benefit of this one, which was Family Day, which is an awesome day. And I had a wonderful time spending time with my family. I booked our church building that has a gymnasium in it, and we had a nice gathering with everyone on my side of my family. Usually we spend a lot of time with my wife's family, but this time my brothers and their wives and their kids came over, and we played a little bit of basketball in the gym and played a game called crokinole. I don't know if you guys know what crokinole is. It's basically these little round discs that you try to flick with your finger and try to get it as close as you can to the center of the board. This hexagonal, kind of octagonal board, and 20 points if you get it to drop right into the middle little hole. And anyway, so we played a bunch of that. That was fun, and just getting together with family. So it was a wonderful weekend, and as always, whenever there's a day off, and in all honesty, it wasn't quite a day off because I had a consult that was scheduled in my calendar before I realized it was our family day. So I slipped into the office, and I had another corporate client that had something urgent that they wanted me to deal with. So the life of an immigration lawyer is never boring. Let's just put it that way. So I slipped in and had a little bit of work for probably about 4 hours yesterday, even though it was holiday. So those of my awesome clients who are being so patient with me, I really appreciate it. I am going to be focusing really hard on getting everything pushed out. And hey guys, we could just have another draw here this week. It is possible. So, and I've got a number of profiles for all of you awesome clients that have retained me that are just waiting. And we'll see if these all result in ITAs for all of you. And in all honesty, there shouldn't be one of you that won't get an ITA. All of you have got scores that are just right up at that high level. And the reality is I just don't take clients if I don't believe they have a good chance of getting an ITA. I don't believe in taking their money and then just having them sit and swim around in that express entry pool forever and never get drawn out. Unlike some of the other shysters out there who are more than happy to trick you into believing you're eligible for express entry, but unfortunately you are now in a situation where you're never going to get drawn and you've paid them money, which was a complete waste. Buy my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide, and you can avoid all of that. You'll know right away if you have a chance of succeeding, and if not, then all you've spent is the money for the course and not paying a whole bunch of money to someone who's just interested in taking your money. All right. Chime in, let me know, as always, where you're listening from. Just post it in the comments below, and I'm going to log in here and pull up all of your comments here within my screen. Our awesome Express Entry Law Facebook group is currently sitting at, let's see if I can find it here, the Express Entry Law Facebook group. It's just taking its sweet time, is currently sitting at 119,758. And as always, when we are talking about Express Entry, I'm going to jump in here and I am going to share my screen with you guys. When we're talking about the group here, you'll see right away, and just give me a second. Boy, now I see I've got my, I better close that out. I've been a little with allergies and everything here. I've been sneezing a little bit. You'll see here that if you want to join the group, and I don't know, we've got 2 people I can see right here that want to join the group. So we'll use these as an example. If people that want to join the group, if they're invited by someone, then I'll approve them. If they've requested to join, like this person, and and if they haven't answered the question, but they haven't been invited by someone, then I decline them. But in both cases here, these people were invited by you fine members of the group, so I'm going to invite them in. So, all right, let's shift over here. And like I said, I'm just going to go back to full screen, and then I'm going to try and see if I can actually find the feed. And part of the reason I posted on YouTube, like I explained to everybody who's watching this, is because often it's hard to find it within our Facebook feed. And many people complain that they've wanted to watch it, but for whatever reason, they can't find it in their feed. So I always post these out in YouTube on the Canadian Immigration Institute page. And yeah, all right. So we have Ankush. Good morning. Good morning. Pranay says good morning. Mutwakil says good morning. Ashish is from Delhi. And then Mutwakil is already asking questions. So Mutwakil, will have you hold off and ask these questions once we get to the stage where we start to answer the live listener ones. But I always go through the written ones first. All right, who else do we have here? Pranay is also from New Delhi. And I know you guys are tuning in at, like, let's say noon is probably about 12:30 a.m. In the wee hours of the night. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to join me. And then Abraham, you can hold off as well on your questions, and we'll get to that. Sanjeev is from India. We've got a phenomenal complement of Indians watching today. That's really cool. All right. And we've got, yeah, so hold off on your questions, Melissa and Gafur. Gafur, you've indicated, can you contact me? Here's my email. Gafur, you've got my email right here in the bottom, mholthy@stringham.ca. You can reach out to me there. And also, as always, if I share my screen with you, you guys can go in right here, and I will post this in the comments. We'll put a copy here. I think I've got it all right there. If you guys want to connect with me and book a consultation, the best way to do it is right there at that link, which is right here, which is stringham.ca/immigration-mark-Holthy. So www.stringham, that's stringham.ca/immigration-mark-Holthy. And that is how you can book a paid consultation with me. All right, so let's jump back here. Okay, so Tal is from Toronto. Envis is over in the Netherlands. Hello, Envis. Okay, and Melinda is Bangalore. And we've got, we've got a great group of people who is tuning in. So great to have you join me. We've got Bahrain, and we've got Abraham is down in Michigan, and Melissa is in America. Great. Okay, so I've kind of given you a little bit of an update on what's happening in the life of immigration lawyer Mark Holthy. But right now, what I'd like to do is shift over and start to answer some of the live questions. Now, as always, I better make sure I keep track of this. And actually, you know what? I was going to give a shout out, but on the YouTube channel, I had asked for someone if they had time to kind of track the responses and just the time when I answered the questions. And I don't have access right this moment. I don't know if I can actually find it right at this moment. But there was one of the YouTube members, one of the subscribers to the group, that actually went in. It was so unbelievable. Like, it totally blew me completely away. Went in and actually provided timestamps for the whole process right there. Actually, I'm going to show you guys this because this just totally blew me away. Now, this is what it means for the giver's gain philosophy. Essentially, this is what it means to have someone who goes out of their way to provide help, if you will. And I'm going to try to see if I can find this. And I'm going to show you guys in just one second. Because like I said, it's just unbelievable. Let's see if we can see here. Interesting. Not this one. This is what you get, guys, when I am the jack of all trades who is responsible for dealing with a bunch of different things all at once, this is what you get. It's quite the entertaining experience watching me fumble along as I'm trying to find things because I'm doing it all. But thanks to this individual, where the heck did it go? I just looked at it. This is awesome. Let me try this again here. I just found it and I was so excited because I wanted to show you guys, and I'm going to. I'm not quitting till I figure this out because this person took so much time to do this for me, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Here it is. Okay, so check this out. This is awesome. Okay, here's the actual YouTube right here. So how to avoid screwing up your translations was the one that I did. And this was back on February the 5th, so a few weeks back. And take a look at Awesome A. Goody right here, this person. Look at this. Can you imagine the time that it took to go through, rewatch the whole video, which was an awesome one. It was like an hour and a half long. I spent all this time answering questions of the listeners, and often some of this fantastic content, just people, unless you're willing to sit and watch the whole thing, are just going to miss out. But A. Goody here took the time to timestamp all of these sections, everything, just unbelievable. So then I took it and made it easier and put it into the actual description. But a huge, massive shout out to this person who I don't think is a member of our Facebook group, just is a subscriber on the YouTube channel. But it just absolutely blows me away that someone would be so kind and generous to do that. And we're climbing up to about 13,634 subscribers right now as well on that channel. All right, so I was an absolute had to do that. So now is the time where I'm going to jump in and I'm going to start answering all of the listeners' questions that were emailed into me. And those of you who are watching for the first time, right here, mholthy@stringham.ca. If you send me your question, and always put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. And so if I am to shift over here and show you my screen here, see what they did? Right there. EE Live Q&A in the subject line. I search through my massive amounts of emails, and then I pull out the questions that people ask. And if your question is not specific just to you, because that requires a consultation, but a question that many other people have been asking me about this particular aspect of express entry, then I include it within the very first questions that I answer on our EE Live Q&A, which I am doing today. So we'll stick those back in there. All right, so the first question here, and we'll start. This one is from Sue, and Sue says, I and my common law partner created the EE profile. She's the main applicant. I have one sister living in Canada. She is a Canadian citizen. If I mentioned her in my application, can I get extra points? But she will not provide me with any documents that can prove her residency in Canada. So this is something that I run across quite frequently. And the reality is you have an obligation to prove it. And so you have an obligation to list all of your siblings. And if you do have a sibling who's living in Canada, you can't just ignore listing them because they are not going to be able to provide. Now, you didn't provide proof of residency. Now, you did not explain what the circumstances were. Sometimes there's just bad feelings and you have no contact with them, or they refuse to help you, which is really sad. Ultimately, I hate to hear about family that are not on good terms because after all, what else do you have in life but your family? Everything else comes and goes, but your family are the ones that are the closest and that stay with you. So if you guys, this is Mark Holthy telling you, if you have a falling out with a sibling, get on the phone and call them and fix it because they're the ones that are going to be with you when you're old and decrepit and, you know, all of the friends have come and gone. Your family is everything. So there's my plug, family first. All right, so back to Sue. The reality is if we shift here, I'm going to share my screen again. This time I'm going to go to the EE completeness check, that site. So if you search EE or express entry completeness check, it will take you to this site. And then I will put here, and I'll just type in sibling. Let's see if that works. Nope. So let's see, family. All right, so we'll jump down here to the bottom because I know what's down here. Representative. Okay, so right here is a section that's called proof of relationship to a relative in Canada, status of a relative in Canada, and residence status of a relative in Canada. And you can see this is for the purposes of claiming CRS points, a whopping 15 if you have a brother or sister in Canada. And that's the case with Sue. But the challenge is Sue, for whatever reason, can't get proof that that sibling is in Canada. So the reality is, if you listed a sibling and the profile gave you 15 points and you can't prove it, then you're going to lose those 15 points. So I really hope that you didn't need those points to reach the round of invitation level for that particular draw in which you received your ITA. So if we scroll down here, I want to show you guys here that it's required, we'll close that out, it is required if you are trying to claim points for a family member in Canada. And if you go through here, a copy of both sides of the family member's Canadian citizenship, so usually, or permanent residence, and you can see birth certificate, permanent resident card, passport works, proof that the family member currently resides in Canada. And so this is what Sue says he can't find. You need to provide a residential lease, mortgage document, utility bills, etc. But the key is it has to be dated within 6 months prior to submission. So be careful, okay? And that's submission of your EAPR. And it must show their address, okay? And like I said, recent. And then you need to show that they're actually related to you, proof of relationship, okay? So maybe a birth certificate. You can provide 2 birth certificates, yours as well as your sibling, and that shows both parents. Or sometimes it's listed in the inside back cover of your passport, right? Or marriage certificate also lists the names of parents, okay? So any of those things, those are all the things that you can show. And then if you are claiming points for a stepbrother or stepsister, the key is to show that your parents are still together, because once they're not, they're no longer considered to be a sibling for the purposes of immigration, okay? So there is a little bit of a high overview, but for you, Sue, you have to describe it. If you can't get it, then you got to make sure that you're not wanting to claim those 15 points. If you need them, then you have to prove it. If you don't, then it's going to unravel your whole EAPR, and you are not going to be able to actually get those points and potentially receive approval on your EAPR. Okay, it'll get unraveled because they'll say that you are actually below where you really should be. And you have not met that minimum CRS score, you haven't been able to prove it, that resulted in you getting your ITA in the first place. All right. Okay, next question here. Let's see what we have. This one is from Arjun, and Arjun states the following. Okay, wishing you all the respect for helping everyone out with your enthusiastic and passionate approach. Great. Well, I love doing this. I'm a little tired, I'll be honest. I'm a little tired today. I was up a little bit late, finishing a few things after our family party for a few clients, and then up early this morning trying to stay on top of things. So a little sleepy, but I'm still enthusiastic about what I'm doing. All right, my question, and this is Arjun's question, is as follows. I will be submitting my post-ITA documents very soon. My concern is typically that nowadays medical past is triggered about 30 to 40 days after the acknowledgement of receipt, followed by biometric request. Suppose I submit my EAPR on the 28th of February. My biometric request should be around mid-April. And just to inform you, I'm a sailor by profession. All right, very cool, Arjun. And I will be on the ship sailing on board around the globe in April till the next 4 months. What options do I have to submit biometrics? Can I request for early submission of biometrics just after the AOR? Please advise on the above. Your help is highly appreciated as always. All right, so this is actually a really cool question, Arjun. The reality is, when it comes to the whole process of express entry, there are so many different factors that can cause disruption. Basically, the lives of people who are applying don't stand still. People have jobs, people have other things. And when immigration says, you need to do this, they give you a timeline, often 30 days to complete it, or less in some cases. And then even when you get your confirmation of permanent residence, you're also in a position where you may not be ready to come to Canada. And so immigration can be very, very rigid with all of these things. And you're wise to pay attention to this and to consider it. Remember that biometrics is still very new. And so people who think they've got it figured out, don't trust them, because it is not the same for every single person. And I talk about this all the time, relying on these timelines that people post and then basing your experience on the timelines that you see when it comes to other people, and then getting frustrated because yours is not going as fast as other people you've seen. And so I always caution everyone to be wary of these averaged or estimated processes that happen within Express Entry. Your application will be processed when it's processed, and you just need to be patient. But in a case like this, where you're going to be on a boat for 4 months and you may not have easy access to biometrics, yeah, that's a reality. And immigration, they don't really care what you're doing. They don't care what your world is like. They don't care the inconvenience that they're causing. They consider it a privilege that they're granting to you to even immigrate to Canada. So if that's the case, you need to make whatever accommodations you need to make sure that it can happen. So as you travel, I'm sure that on the boat, you know where you're going to be. Without a doubt, if you have the ability to reach out to them and notify them that you are going to be traveling, and you know that your application has passed the medical stage and it's nearing the stage where they're going to be requesting that you obtain a biometric, if you know that there isn't time, if you wait until the timing that you've set out here, and understand these are just estimates, we're just hypothetically talking about you potentially being on a boat when they actually give you the biometric request. This is all just hypothetical. But if you know in advance, understand you can't preempt things too quick, because they may say, hey, Arjun, like, we haven't even approved your application. We're not even sure whether you qualify or not. Maybe the time you've spent on your ship, if that's what you're counting as your work experience, maybe we have issues with that. So there's a number of things that can trip this up. So you can't just go early and say, hey, I know my biometrics is coming. It's probably going to happen around this period. I'm going to be on a boat. Can you send it sooner? And then expect that they're going to actually do that. But ironically, that's pretty much the best thing you can do, is to send a case-specific inquiry and say, hey, I project that I'm probably going to get biometrics in April. I may be on a boat. Is there any way I can take it in advance? Would you please send me the request to do that? And that's all you can do. After that, when they give you the request, if you're unable to fulfill it in the time period because you'll be on a boat, then the moment you get the request, you send back a case-specific inquiry, you explain the situation to them, and ask them to give you extensions to be able to complete it. And then maybe you also may be in a port somewhere where it's close to a place where you can get biometrics during, your leave, if you've got a day or two between ports, between stops. So that's how I deal with it. And wow, that was a brand new one that we've never had to deal with before, because now everybody has to get biometrics, as well as paying your the $1,040 for your application fees. You also now have to get biometrics. And what are biometrics? That's your iris scans, that's the fingerprints, so that they can identify you and track you forever in the system because of that fingerprint or that iris scan. All right. Okay, great question, Arjun. Thank you very much. Okay, next question here is from Wajd. And I always struggle with the pronunciations here, but that's okay. So Waj, we'll just say Waj. Okay, thank you for your valuable help in the Facebook group. I have a question regarding ECAs. If one bachelor in management science, 3 years, okay, so he has one, I have one, this is him speaking. I have one bachelor in management science for 3 years, French studies, and another bachelor in finance, 4 years, English studies. The first one was evaluated by ICAS as bachelor's, 3 years. The other one was evaluated by WES as 4 years bachelor. My question is it counted as 2 degrees, or just I have to mention only one, as I didn't evaluate both of them by the same organization? Does it need to be mentioned in the ECA 2 degrees to gain extra points? So clearly within this here, when you're entering in your information into your profile, in this case, it's 2 degrees. So if these truly were separate programs where you went to school for the full-time in French and you went to school for the full-time in English, and they were 2 separate credentials, Just because you had one assessed by ICAS and another one by WES, they're both entirely eligible. And many of you notice that WES may not recognize some schools where IQUES will actually assess it and give you an equivalency. And so sometimes that's what you have to do if WES isn't cooperating. And clearly WES dominates the world, but the other organizations may be able to fill gaps when WES is not cooperating or helping. All right, so in your situation, Waj, yes, you are going to list it as two separate credentials. And when you enter the information in, you're just entering in the credential. You're not yourself choosing this is 2 or more degrees. You're just entering into your education history, your study history, that credential, and then you're going to put 2 entries, 1 for each, and then you're just going to provide the information for the ECA that you received for both of those organizations. All right, good question. Another relatively new one. All right, okay, let's see what we have here. And this one, I think tonight is going to be or today is going to be the last one. Okay, so this one is from Ina, and we'll timestamp this one about 26:05. Ina says, firstly, thank you for your very useful assistance. I plan to apply with my husband, me being the principal applicant. I'm unclear about the proof of funds in terms of whether the money needs to be in a shared joint account, or is it okay if all the necessary amount of money is in my account? So understand, as the principal applicant, ideally all the funds could be an account that you have solely. And that's entirely fine. And that's a great way of doing it. And if you have that and you can establish all of those proof of funds, and it's in an account that you are the sole owner of that account, that bank account, then that's totally fine. But there's a lot of different variations. The funds could all be in your spouse's account as well, if they're accompanying you. And even in those circumstances, if they're accompanying, sometimes I will also just provide a little letter in there from the spouse confirming that the funds are all available, of course, for the entire family when you ultimately land and arrive in Canada. And so I'll add that as an added step. If the money is all in the account of a non-accompanying spouse, then in those circumstances, the rules are going to be different. In other words, I would make sure in many cases that the money actually either get transferred into the principal person's account, or there's a very clear statutory declaration swearing that the funds are entirely for the purposes of the traveling or principal applicant spouse to settle in Canada, and a very clear rationale why the funds are going to stay in the account domiciled in the home country, for the purposes of both both households, because there now will be 2 if the one spouse isn't coming immediately, and provide an explanation, which you will anyways, as to why that spouse is being listed as non-accompanying. So interesting question, Ina. But in your case, yeah, if the funds are in your account, then it's totally fine. If they're in a joint account with both of you, totally fine. You don't need an explanation letter for that if the spouse is accompanying you. So, all right, great question. Fantastic. And we are right here now at 28:30 of the live session right here. And we are now at the stage where we are going to start, or at least me, I'm going to start answering the live questions. So you can post those in the comment right now. And I'll start off here with the last one that I see here, which is Kopal. And Kopal says, hi, Mark. Right now, I have sufficient proof of funds for express entry, but my 6 months average, counting from September 2018 till now, is going to be much less amount, as my account is 10 months old. Do I need, and let's see if I can stay on top of this while all these other ones come in, do I need to give a letter of explanation? 2, I also received some amount from my brother last month, which he owed me, and now returned $7K US. Should I get it written from him that he has paid me back, hence this transaction? Okay, so to start with, when it comes to proof of funds, I'd get an updated letter. If it's old like this, I'd get a new one that sets out exactly what's currently in your account, and that's the one that you're going to use. So that letter should be able to document exactly like you've identified here, all the funds that are in there. But when it comes to big bursts or big transactions where money is being deposited into your account from other sources, yes, 100% you need to explain that. You need to disclose it and explain where it came from. And your brother would also provide I would even get a sworn statement saying that money is not a loan. It was money that he is giving you. It is unencumbered, it is irrevocable, and it is exclusively for your use. And so those funds are not funds that are in the form of a loan. So that's how I would deal with that, Gopal. Okay, good question. There's Aaron. So Arun says, my COPR was canceled after I added my spouse and have been asked to submit documents for my spouse, including updated proof of funds. I had maintained the funds throughout, but just last week or so, I transferred some funds to my father, who was the donor of my gift, when I applied last time as a single applicant, as he needed some of the funds with the intention of taking the funds again from him as a gift when I realized that this might seem suspicious. How should I tackle the situation? It's a reality. Those funds look like it was a loan, my friend, and an officer could very well have an issue with that. But the funds need to be kept in your account. It can't be, if like when you're transferring funds back to a family member, during the process, yeah, that can be a huge issue, and you're right to consider it as being suspicious. If I was an officer, I would question as well whether or not those funds were truly gifted or whether they were just a loan from your father to help you meet the express entry minimum settlement funds requirement. So yeah, so you're going to need to explain that. You're definitely going to want to explain that when they ask for updated proof of funds. And why are they asking? Because now if you're adding a spouse, it changes the amount of funds that you have to have in your account. Now you're going to need to have more. All right. So yeah, that's a reality, Arun. You absolutely have to deal with that. And you make sure those funds are returned into your account ASAP, and you explain what happened. All right. Kabir says, Sir, hope, excuse me, sir, hope all is well. Just want to find out, can I travel for a holiday between ITA and it has EOR, I think it's maybe EAPR, and have the PCC still valid? Please let me know. Thank you. So ultimately, when you submit your application for your electronic application for permanent residence, at that stage, that's when your police clearance needs to meet the requirements. So let's just take one quick second, Kabir, and then hopefully I can find this here. I'm going to share my screen with you guys again. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to we're going to take a look at police clearances. Let's see if I can find it quick here. Police, there. Police certificates. Okay, so if we go through this process for police certificates, and there we go, you will see the rules, and what everybody needs to understand is that you need to provide, if it's from the current country of residence, it must have to have been issued no more than 6 months before the submission of your EAPR. So in your case, and obviously for every country that you've lived in for 6 months or more in a row, and if the countries in which you're no longer present, it must have been issued after the last time you stayed in that country. So, and remember, for 6 months or more in a row. So if you've recently gone back there, before you submit your EAPR and your police certificate was issued before, in other words, before you return back to that country, so everything predates the submission of your EAPR, then yeah, I almost always will recommend that you submit a new one. But remember, if it has been within the past 6 months, so it's just recent that this has happened, sometimes you can take a look and make sure that when you submit the police certificate, if it's still valid within the past 6 months, then sometimes you can push the envelope. But in all honesty, I would never submit a police certificate that's more than 3 months old. And if you have gone back after that police certificate was issued to that country, and before you submit your EAPR, then I would consider strongly getting a new one. And that's the only safest way that we can deal with that. Okay, so that's something to take into consideration and to think about. Okay, let's see here with all these other ones racing in. If we can get back to where we were left off. Okay, Melissa says, can I apply for PR with my family while on visitor visa? Yeah, if you have a visitor visa that's already been issued, of course you can. Just like anyone who's in Canada on a work permit can also apply for permanent residence with their family. The only issue when you're dealing with express entry or permanent resident applications and visitor visa applications themselves is that when you are applying for any temporary document to Canada, you need to show that you have temporary intent, that you're actually going to return back to your home country. And some visa offices that are more strict, where there's higher rates of people overstaying and remaining in Canada illegally after they've been issued a visa to Canada, those countries, I've seen visa officers use the fact that you've submitted a permanent resident application as a ground, well, as a factor, not the deciding factor, but as a factor in you not having sufficient temporary intent. In other words, the intention of actually going back to your home country because one day you hope to become a permanent resident. Now, they can't rely on that as the exclusive ground because we have a provision that allows for dual intent within our Immigration Act and regulations. And that allows for people to be admitted as temporary residents while they may still have the intention of becoming a permanent resident one day. And that's the case with anyone who has a visa to Canada, whether it's a visitor, a worker, a student, you can still have those status and have the intention of becoming a permanent resident without losing the ability to extend those documents. So, food for thought there. Abraham says, "Hi Mark, can I use academic IELTS for express entry?" Abraham, the answer is the version of the IELTS that you have to complete for immigration. If we go here, and I'm going to show you what I do here. So EE, and then I'm going to type in, so EE, and then I'm going to put here language test, and let's see what comes up right here. So we'll try to find one that is not the actual Q&A. Okay, so you can see here, here's the requirements right here. Language tests that they accept. Okay, IELTS, you must take the general training option. We don't accept the academic option for express entry. There you go. Simple as that, right from the source. Okay, all right, let's see what else we got going here. Okay, and some of these questions I'm going to be able to answer. So if I bypass your question, it's because it goes beyond, or it's more complicated, or it's not something that I would normally answer in these general groups. Okay, let's see if we can find it. Wow, a whole ton of questions have been piling in here. Okay, Chid here. Chidinma says, "Hello Mark, does IRCC save the information we filed out in our previous profile even when the profile has expired?" 100% yes, they do. Everything that you have in there is locked into GCMS. Okay. Sarah says, "Hi Mark, I have sufficient fund in my personal account, but my spouse will accompany me. Is that okay?" 100%. No issues at all, as long as you have that level that's required for a spouse if you don't have any children. So we go here, we go to proof of funds. EE is pretty much all I have to do. Then we go into here, and if you are going from a single to a couple, you're going from $12,669 to $15,772 for two people in your family. All right, great question. Let's shift back here to next. Let's see where we're at. Wow, it's so hard because every time I answer and then shift, then it requires me to go back up and figure out where I was. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Tal says, "What happened if they refuse you because of wrong knock? You apply again with the same duties, only different knock code." Well, obviously, if they refused you for the wrong knock and you've corrected it, then there should be no reason for them to refuse it on the second application, unless somehow they found there was some misrepresentation, but I don't assume that's the case. But Tal, that's a really, really good situation and something to explain. I do more consults than probably anything else sorting out job descriptions and proper knocks. And one of the things I want to point you guys to is a blog post that I call my secret to finding your correct knock. That is on my Canadian Immigration Podcast website. And I'm also in the process of shifting over to a brand new one, a new hosting platform. But I'm just going to post in the comments down here, the link to this. Okay, so now I'm going to go back here and we're going to continue forward. And forgive me if I'm bouncing around here talking and it's just I'm trying to share stuff and I'm skipping your questions. Bear with me, guys. Okay, so there you go, Tal. So when you submit, understand that yes, you have to get it correct. There's no doubt about it. But if you got it wrong and they refused it, then fix it and resubmit. Okay, so Mashadul says, sir, is it that after completing the medicals for the second time after the first got expired, the PPR is really quick? I can't answer that. I'm serious. I can't answer that. It just takes as much time as it takes, and I never get into the game of trying to guess. Understand, you guys, you're in a whole different world. Only just a few years ago, before Express Entry was created, processing times in some cases had climbed almost to 7 or 8 years in some countries. And so this, people are getting freaked out because their applications are taking 6 months and their friends was processed in 3. Seriously, like anyone with an ITA who submitted your EAPR, understand your application will be processed. It will. Consider yourself so fortunate. You are a part of a very elite group of people that is now able to qualify. And so, it just amazes me how people get so worked up over processing times. Yes, it takes as long as it takes. Imagine if you were an H-1B holder from India in the US and you wanted to apply for permanent residence. I think some of you that are watching here, if you know how long it takes to go through and obtain permanent resident status, a green card in the US, if you are an H-1B holder in the US, why don't you just post in the comments and let's see who is the smartest here. How long is that going to take you? And then when I get down to that, then I'll advise everybody in YouTube land. Okay. All right. Okay. Zara says, hi, Mark. I have an asylum status in the UK. Can I apply for express entry? Yep, you can. There's no restrictions on that, but you need to fully disclose it. Okay, Ashish says, sir, please give some discount in Silver Plan. I really need your services and I can't imagine anyone else than you. Ashish, the Silver Plan is the massive discount. That's the whole nature of it. And I will never, ever reduce my legal fees anymore. I did for a very short period of time when I brought on someone to help me, and then that person left, and then I ended up having to do everything at a rate that I never would have done if it was my own time. And so I've refused to do that. The Silver Plan is worth every penny of it. And for those of you who are wondering what it is, all you have to do is go to our site right here. And you can go right within the very top part here. You will see that there is an announcement section right here. And there's a whole bunch of other announcements. So when you click on See All, then what happens is it opens up as soon as this decides to open all the other ones that I've posted. And you can see sometimes I'll highlight different ones, but right here, it was actually posted January the 12th, 2018. These are all my fee structures and levels that I've posted. So bronze is just a document review. I charge $1,000 for that. It's not a review of your profile or your EAPR, just documents. And then the silver plan, which I consider my best value plan, is a full review of your documents. I go through every aspect of your profile. And why the profile? Even if you have an ITA, because I want to make sure it's consistent. It is absolutely critical that what you've put in your profile matches what's going in your EAPR. And if it doesn't, that we fix it and we address it. I actually work through the process of a Skype call, just like this. And it's literally just like you're seeing me now. We actually go forward. We review everything that you have completed. You give me access to your MyCIC account. It's not in mine. You have full control of everything. We look at it online together. I review all the documents through a Dropbox folder that you upload to me, and then we submit it together, and you pay the fee and file it. And this is the most comprehensive, awesome plan that ever existed in the face of the earth. And the reality is people that you're hiring to do the application for them, that you're hiring for them to do it for you, when it comes to this whole process, you're having to complete their questionnaires anyways, which is ridiculous, and provide them with all the documents anyways. So you might as well open it up, submit your own information into your own MyCIC portal where you have control over everything. You collect your documents, you upload them all with my help. And this is the kicker. you get free access to lifetime access to my course to walk you through every aspect of doing it anyways. And then we jump on a call and we go through everything together step by step, 100% of the way, answering all questions. And the piece de resistance is I help you with actually drafting your letters of explanation if you need help. And then in the end, I provide you with a use of representative form to confirm with immigration that I helped you. And that's why I love it. So the reality is I am never reducing that because it is at a price that is 5,000 times better than any overseas agent or crooked consultant out there who is actually taking your money, concealing your profile, and you don't even know if they've entered the information in properly because it's in their own rep portal. So we'll leave it at that. That's the plug for the silver plan, which I think is just awesome. Okay, let's jump back here and see if I can actually find where we left off, excuse me, within our group here. And I know that lots of people have been posting questions and the comments have just been streaming like crazy. So let's see if I can find it here. So give me a second and see if I can figure out where I left off. Okay. I wonder let's see. I know because I jumped out of it, I probably lost it for sure. So bear with me. Let's see if they're still in order. Let's see if I can find it. Boy. Okay. I think I found it. Okay. So Rashidul says, sir, is it that now recently the medical is valid for 6 months only? No, it's a year. It's a year. Mizan says, in my passport supplement information page, my spouse's surname has been misspelled. Oh my goodness. You guys, I'm assuming you're from India, probably Mizan, or a country like that. The reality is anytime you have misspelled names or wrong names or things, you need to clearly identify all of that within the letter of explanation. And can it cause problems? Yes, it can, because your obligation is to make sure that everything is correct. And if it looks like for some reason that the information that you've provided is somehow inconsistent or incorrect, it could cause you problems. It could. And that's why these letters of explanation are so important, because even when we're dealing with immigration, when I ask them questions and it doesn't fit into the normal way of answering, it's different. Guess what their response is? Explain it in a letter of explanation and the officer will take it into consideration. So whenever there are name issues or misspellings or whatever, you need to identify it right up front and then explain why it is the way it is. Be proactive. Super important. Okay. Right. Dr. Vishal. Hello, sir. My AOR, 6th of March, 2018. Now almost 1 year complete now. No received any ADR requests. What can I do now? This is normal. Dr. Vishal, this is not normal. No. Anything beyond 6 months is not normal unless during that time period they requested something from you. They came back, asked for a document clarification, because then you can pretty much throw the 6 months out the window. Those processing times don't apply if they've had to come back and ask for additional information. So in terms of why your application is taking so long, I can't even begin to answer that question. Is it normal? No. What do? Well, we start with doing an ATIP and getting the GCMs notes to see if there's something that they're stuck on. That is helpful. So I will do that, request the actual GCMs notes. I don't need a copy of everything, just those notes. And then once I've got that, then we can usually sift back and see if they're hung up on something. Is it your work history? Is there security checks that are delaying? All right. Okay. Odia says, 2-year-old is Canadian. My wife and I are Trinidadian. Would I have to pay? Oh, it just jumped on me. I hate it when it does that. Let's see if we can find it here. Excuse me. Oh, let's see. Where are we at? Okay, here we go. Okay, hopefully this doesn't jump on me again. Okay, so 2-year-old is Canadian. My wife and I are Trinidadian. Would I have to pay for her in the PR process? No. Canadian citizens, no. They're not included as a $150 dependent. You just need to make sure you disclose everything, Odia. Okay, Radwan says, hello, please, I want to ask about the Canadian experience class. Is it 1 year experience enough to get the PR? I mean, I will not need anything more. I mean about the experience. Radwan, 1 year of experience is the minimum threshold to qualify and become eligible under the Canadian experience class. those who don't have Canadian work experience, they then have to be eligible under the Federal Skilled Worker Program or the Federal Skilled Trade Program. So once you've established 1 year of Canadian work experience, all that means is you can submit your profile into the pool. After that process, then you still have to go through the whole process of being ranked against everybody else, and they will assess you just like everyone else. So nothing special about that. Oh, I was hoping I had a little bit of water because my throat's so dry. I don't have any. I feel like I'm traveling the Sahara Desert and I'm so dry and I can't get water. And you guys don't have time for me to walk over and get some water and come back. That would be a pretty big waste of time, especially considering we're at the 50-minute mark. And I said this one was going to be shorter today, which of course now it isn't because I get carried away. Okay, let's keep walking through here. Okay, Mahmoud, your question, my friend, requires a consultation, 100%. And Mahmoud, you actually sent me the email and I remember it, but it's far more complex than we can address in this, okay? There's so many other factors involved. So you'll need to book a paid consultation for me to address your situation with 2 wives and being in a polygamous relationship. Okay. Let's see here. We've got some other people chiming in. Okay. If Express Entry profile is expired due to IELTS expiration, after then, anyone submit EE profile with other than previous not code and experience. I'm not quite sure I understand the question there, Manish. Then anyone submit EE profile with other than previous not code and experience. I'm not sure why you would want to shift or change. Did you make a mistake? Was there something that wasn't correct? You can always make whatever changes you want in a new profile. But understand, just because your IELTS expires doesn't result in your Express Entry profile expiring. You just have to get a new IELTS and then update your profile. All right. Abraham says, thanks, you bet. Okay. And then Envis says, dear Mark, thank you for your help in answering to our concerns. I have a question. Yes, Envis, I got your email. And when it comes to this, the requirements are mandatory. So it's entirely possible that if there isn't a specific, well, let's take a quick look and I'll show you guys again. And we've looked at this a lot. So if we go back to our completeness check again, I'll share my screen. Excuse me. And then right at the beginning are the requirements for translations. And it's pretty simple. So English or French translation, an affidavit from the person who completed it saying, this is a true, correct translation from whatever language to English, and then a certified photocopy of the original document. So this is the original document. Here I am a notary public or someone who can certify that I saw the original, and this is really a copy of that original that I saw. And I swear that it's true. So that's what's required, Envis. And if you don't have those things, if there's something missing, then yeah, you need to do all you can to scramble and try to fix it. Okay? So there's no beating around the bush. And you know, whenever we're doing this, and I know, Envis, I've had lots of opportunities to interact with you. You provided a great resource for my guide. Yeah, this is something that you just, you can't ignore. So you need to assess that. And if you feel like it's somehow not complete, then do send a case-specific inquiry. All right. Let's see here. Next is, okay, we've got a conversation going here on the side. Okay, Shakir had a contact with you. I posted in the link. You can just go to the Stringham site or you can send me an email to mholthy@stringham.ca. Okay, Sohan says, hi Mark, this is not really a question. I just want to thank you for clearing all the doubts I had regarding my application. I prepared all my documents as per your advices from our consultation last week. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much, Sohan. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that the consult was helpful. And guys, you know, I'm here to provide as much or as little help as people need. And that's why the consult is there. That's why the bronze plan is there for just reviewing your documents. That's why I have the silver plan for a full review. And that's why I offer the gold full concierge. Mark, I just want you to handle everything and submit it through your profile, through your own portal, your representative portal, Mark. I'm too busy. I don't have time to monitor everything. I just want you to do it. So that's why I offer all those different versions, all those different varieties. Okay. Okay, so Guillermo, now we're finally at the stage where I'm getting to the answers where I asked, how long does it take to get permanent resident status if you're an Indian in the US on H-1B? Okay, so we've got 7 years at least. Well, Guillermo, yes, 7 years at least is correct, but keep going. Kabir says 11 years. All right, well, both of them are probably a little bit off, but we'll leave it at that. Okay, Munish says, hello, Mark. If someone has lupus, not communicable disease, will he or she get PR? That is entirely dependent upon the results of the medical, my friend. That's not something I can answer in a comment. Okay, so we'll keep going here. Amen says, I'm really interested. Please, anyone add me or send me a friend request to explain to me. I'll be so grateful. I have no clue what Amen is asking there. Okay. Ankush says 10 to 15 years for H-1B to green card. That's getting closer. That's definitely getting closer. All right. And then you'll see here that there is a link. And let's see if I've got the right one. I'm going to repost this again. But it should be, I think I've got the right one. It should be this one. We'll just copy it again. And I'm just going to paste it in the comments section. And that's where you book a paid consultation with me. Okay, let's jump back here. Okay, Shakir says silver plan fee. It's $2,500 Canadian plus 5% sales tax. So if you're going to BC or Ontario, it's going to be more that you're paying for the service fee, the goods and services tax. But in in Alberta, it's just 5%. So that is it. And I'm going to put here reply. I'm going to give this CAD plus 5% sales tax, and I will respond directly to Shakir in case anyone else is looking and would like to get some clarification on that. Okay, now let's see if I can keep going down here because now I've messed everything up again. It is really hard, guys, trying to work through this. It is not easy. Okay. Okay. Okay, we've got that one answered. Okay, MD says, Rashidul says, for me, actually, the process is taking too long. It's almost more than 3 years. Wow, that's a long time. And so that whole situation, Rashidul, there's obviously a lot of things going on there. Tons of things going on. And we definitely would need to take that offline to talk about why it's been 3 years, because it should never be that long. Okay, Faison says, have a water. Yeah, but it's too far to walk, so I'll just keep talking here. Hi, my name is Ahmed from Djibouti. I didn't have IELTS, but I am 8 years experience and also sponsor in Canada. Boy, now it just jumped again here. It's really tricky. So I will be eligible? Okay, Hamada, I don't offer eligibility assessments in our group. If you want me to provide an eligibility assessment, you can book a paid consultation and I can do that. Okay, Mian says, very, very good. Great. If Irfan says, is it necessary to match 100% of the job title to the knock? No. What you need to match is a substantial number of the main duties, and you have to show that you've performed all of the activities in the lead statement. You don't have to show that you have the educational requirements. So what is a substantial number of the main duties? Maybe around 75% is a safe bet. You might be able to get away with a little bit less, or maybe you might need a little bit more depending on actually how many duties, but it's all of the essential duties. So anything on there that says may perform this duty, you don't have to count that within the actual assessment process, just the ones that are mandatory duties. Okay. All right. Edward says, I completed my 4-year bachelor's in 2014. I've already sent it to Wes. In 2013, I completed some other certificate. I plan to have it evaluated as well. Will this be considered? It all comes down to what comes back as the result. So Edward's asking if his 2 credentials will be evaluated as 2 or more certificates. Ultimately, it comes down to whatever the your educational credential assessment agency, whichever one you choose, what they do and what they say. So until I have that, I can't actually tell you. Okay. All right. So Na says, IELTS is a big problem for me. It is for many people. Okay, Faizan says if someone has more than 7 years experience, 3 years from last company and 2 years experience from others too, do we need to mention experience of all companies and reference letters of all, or last 3 years experience would be enough? Faizan, the answer is it all depends. So when you're assessing your eligibility under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, you have to be able to meet the minimum entry criteria. So that system has its own little point grid of 67 out of 100. If you can meet that 67 points with only 3 years of foreign work experience, then you don't need anything more than 3 years to be included in your work history within your express entry application. However, if you're not quite getting 67 points without 4 or 5 or 6 years of foreign work experience to get that 67 point pass under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, then you need to include all 6 years. So there you go. Good question. Okay. Let's scroll down here. Okay, Udit says, hi Mark, I'm currently living in Ottawa and I have entered US via road 3 to 4 times since I moved. The stamp on my passport for US visa is valid for 6 months, hence each time I enter US, they did not give me a new stamp. Do I need to mention all my dates as per actual visit or as per the passport stamp? Always by actual visit, my friend. Always, always. Okay, and then Katamba says here, right here in Uganda, thanks Mark, how can I get a PR nomination to get the extra points? It all depends on the province. And for many people who do not have an actual link to a province or a connection to them, it's really hard to be able to get a nomination when you don't otherwise have a connection with them. And it's becoming fewer and fewer and far in between. All right. Well, we've had a great one today. We are going to end on that note. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this awesome group. I want to remind everyone right here, if I can pull it up, is the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. And this is where you guys have to realize this course answers virtually all of the general questions that people have when it comes to Express Entry. And when I say general, it probably goes into even more specific circumstances that you're not going to find everywhere else. And the people who need to book consultations with me, it's because your situation is so unique. It is uniquely attributed to what you're doing, your personal circumstances, and there just isn't any right or wrong way necessarily of doing it, or at least there isn't a clear explanation anywhere that you can find. That's why people generally book consults with me, and just peace of mind to make sure that they've got it right. But this Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide is your ticket. It's your passport to getting all of the resources, all of the help, all of the previous top videos that I've done on these topics, all in one neat package that walks you through step-by-step through the whole process. So I'm going to take just one quick second to show everybody what I'm talking about this. And so if you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute.com, it will then take you to this page right here where you can enroll in the course. And those of you fine people that are watching this right now within our Express Entry Law private Facebook group or in YouTube land on the Canadian Immigration Institute, I'll show you something. If you click on enroll right here or this enroll right here, and give me a second. Apparently I'm getting a call, which I don't want to answer. There we go. And I'm going to put a do not disturb on. So basically, if you click on that and then you go to add coupon and then you type in EEDIY, let's see if I can do this right, 50%, and then click apply, look at what happens. You save $250 essentially. So $248.50 is what you're paying for lifetime access to the course. It is the absolute best deal that I've got out there. But if you don't want to do that, you can also go over a monthly subscription. And if you only need it for a short period of time, you can subscribe to that. But many ask, what is inside the course? Well, if I go in, this is what you see. Learning the basics, preparing to submit your profile, creating your Express Entry profile, and I have a section that is attributed to every single part of the process, okay? And then if we scroll down here, receiving your ITA, completing the whole EAPA forms, and I even have a special section that's all just about the documents and your document checklist, which is some of the parts that cause the most problems for people. But because everybody within these courses doesn't want to just sit and watch me talk about these very unique types of situations, I have further added a whole member resource section here below, which one person who requested a refund of their money never even looked at. So they totally misunderstood what the nature of it was. Now, they requested the refund after they watched all the videos that really pertained to what they were doing. But this whole section talks about all kinds of things: general information, work experience, language, express entry eligibility. And I dive in much with a whole bunch more detail than I do in the lessons, because not everybody wants to learn everything about every aspect of work experience, whether it's self-employed or otherwise. And I want to remind people that are self-employed that how to claim work experience for express entry, this one right here, actually has a pretty comprehensive section all devoted to self-employed work experience. So this is all kinds of work experience that's embedded in here. All right. Now let's see if I can close this one, and hopefully it'll take me back, which it doesn't because that now popped me out. Anyway, so I just wanted to identify that for all of you guys that are tuning in, and you can just realize that this whole process, and oh, I forgot to shut that off. Oh my goodness. Whatever. It's up. I'll leave it up. This is me just doing the best I can, folks. All right. So take advantage of that. Now's the time to do it. And I'm probably going to shut that down and make some other promotions, but it's up and it's live for all of you guys to take advantage of right now. So as I move over to my new platform, I'm going to be doing new things with all of the courses, including finishing up my study permit course, that I'm actively working through right now, and trying to stay on top of all of the client work that I have. So hope this was helpful, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, this is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, saying good luck and all the best as you're navigating this crazy world that we all call express entry. See you later.